Princess Liara stood by the tall glass window of her chamber, looking out over the sprawling city of Zithra. The sun was setting behind the floating spires, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Despite the beauty, Liara's heart felt heavy. She had heard the news earlier that day. The human General Kale was arriving on Zithra, sent by the distant human empire. His reputation was enough to make the bravest warriors tremble. He was called Ruthless, feared across countless star systems for his victories and the harshness with which he dealt with his enemies. Liara turned away from the window, pacing the polished floor. "Father," she whispered, her voice barely carrying in the quiet room, "please, not him. There must be another way. Surely there are other human leaders who would accept peace without forcing marriage." King Arian, her father, entered the room quietly, his long robes trailing behind him. His face was lined with worry, but his eyes were firm. "Liara, we do not have a choice," he said, his voice calm but unwavering. "The human empire is growing stronger every day. They demand an alliance, and they demand it through marriage. Kale is their chosen representative." Liara's hands clenched into fists. "But father, he is cruel. Everyone says he is merciless. How can you expect me to marry a man who is feared even by his own people?" Arian sighed deeply and moved closer. "I know you fear him, my daughter, but Kale is not just a conqueror. He is a strategist, disciplined and loyal to his cause. If we refuse him, the human empire may take Zithra by force. This marriage may save countless lives. You must try to see beyond the rumors." Liara shook her head. "I cannot imagine seeing him, touching him, having to stand beside him as a bride. It feels like a nightmare." Her father laid a hand gently on her shoulder. "I wish it were not so. But remember, Liara, fear is not weakness. You will find strength even in the darkest moments. Sometimes the most difficult paths lead to the greatest outcomes." Liara turned away, unable to meet his gaze. She wanted to believe him, but the stories she had heard about Kale haunted her. He was known for crushing entire fleets with no mercy, for treating enemy leaders like toys to be discarded. And now, she was expected to stand beside him as if she were safe. The following morning, the royal palace buzzed with preparation. Couriers and palace guards moved quickly, ensuring every detail was perfect for Kale's arrival. The city itself seemed tense, as if the streets and towers knew of the impending human arrival. Citizens whispered in hushed tones about the infamous general, fearing what his presence might mean. Liara spent the morning in her training chamber. Though she had always excelled in diplomacy and strategy, she was now forced to train in human combat techniques, as demanded by the palace council. Sword swings, hand-to-hand drills, and tactical simulations filled her day. Every move reminded her of the reality she wished to avoid. Kale would expect a partner capable of understanding strategy, and she had no choice but to prepare. By the time Kale's ship appeared in the sky, a massive silver craft that shimmered in the afternoon sun, Liara felt her stomach twist with nerves. The palace gates opened as the ship descended slowly, landing gracefully on the main platform. Guards lined the path, their expressions tense. The city seemed to hold its breath. When the ship's hatch opened, Kale emerged. He was taller than any human Liara had seen in her holovids, his armor polished and gleaming. His eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the palace grounds as if measuring everything in a single glance. Even without speaking, his presence demanded attention. The citizens whispered and recoiled, some bowing deeply, others turning away in fear. Liara felt a shiver run down her spine. The rumors had not prepared her for the real man. Kale was imposing, yes, but there was something else. A quiet, intense focus that made him seem more than just a conqueror. He noticed her immediately, standing at the top of the grand staircase leading to the royal courtyard. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and Liara felt an unexpected pull. Her servant, Taran, followed close behind her, noticing her unease. "Princess," he whispered, "do not let fear cloud your judgment. Observe him carefully. There may be more to this man than you think." Liara nodded reluctantly. She stepped forward as her father greeted Kale. The human extended his hand in a formal gesture, and King Arian shook it firmly. Kale's grip was strong, not crushing, but enough to show his power. "Princess Liara," Kale said, his voice deep and steady, "I look forward to our future cooperation." Liara's throat tightened. I hope we can find understanding," she replied, keeping her voice even. Days passed with Kale learning the ways of Zithra, attending council meetings, observing strategy sessions, and practicing diplomacy. He was strict and disciplined, but he did not display cruelty to the palace staff or citizens. He asked questions, listened carefully, and sometimes challenged the advisors, but always respectfully. Liara observed from a distance, noticing flashes of intelligence, discipline, and even fairness beneath his intimidating exterior. Despite this, her fear did not fade. She remembered the stories of Kale's ruthlessness, and every time she saw him with a military fleet or in a strategy simulation, her heart raced. Yet, she could not deny that he had saved lives during drills and prevented mistakes that could have endangered the palace. One evening, a sudden alarm rang throughout the palace. An unexpected attack had occurred. A rogue human faction, not aligned with Kale's empire, had launched an assault on the city. Explosions rocked the palace grounds, and citizens screamed as the gates were breached. Kale sprang into action immediately, issuing commands to the palace guards and human reinforcements with precision. Liara watched from her balcony as he directed the defense. Every decision he made was calculated, every order swift. Yet amidst the chaos, he ensured the palace civilians were protected, personally guiding a group of frightened children and staff to safety. Liara's heart pounded. She had feared him, but seeing him in action, saving lives, not taking them, shook her understanding of the man. Kale fought without hesitation against the invaders, showing no mercy to those who threatened the innocent, but never harming those who were defenseless. By the end of the battle, the rogue faction had been driven off. The palace gates were secured, and the citizens, shaken but alive, began to murmur in awe of Kale's leadership. Liara descended to the courtyard, feeling a mixture of fear and strange admiration. Kale approached her, his armor slightly scorched, his expression serious but not unkind. "Princess Liara," he said, "are you unharmed?" Liara nodded, her voice soft. "I am, thanks to your efforts. You fought well." Kale inclined his head. "It was my duty to protect the palace and its people. I will not allow harm to come to those who do not deserve it." Liara looked at him closely, trying to understand the man beneath the reputation. There was a code in his eyes, a sense of honor that stories had failed to convey. She could not ignore the fact that he had saved her life, and others, without showing the cruelty she had feared. That night, as the palace quieted and the city recovered, Liara stood once again at her window. She thought of Kale and the strange mixture of fear and curiosity he inspired. "Why does he scare me, yet protect me?" she whispered into the night. Taran, standing behind her, placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Perhaps, Princess, the truth is never as simple as the stories," he said softly. Liara nodded, though sleep would not come easily. The future was uncertain, and Kale's presence loomed like a shadow over her life. She feared the marriage, the unknown, but part of her could not ignore the glimmer of respect and strength she had witnessed. As the first stars appeared in Zithra's sky, Liara realized that her journey with Kale would not be simple. She would need courage, intelligence, and careful observation to navigate the days ahead. And perhaps, in time, she would discover that the man she feared was not just a ruthless conqueror, but someone far more complex, far more human than she had imagined. The palace fell silent, but Liara knew this was only the beginning. Kale's arrival had changed everything. The path ahead was dangerous, uncertain, and filled with political intrigue. She felt both fear and an unusual spark of hope. A hope that maybe, just maybe, she could survive this marriage and find a way to protect her people. And somewhere deep inside, Liara admitted quietly, she wanted to understand Kale despite everything. The morning after the attack, Zithra seemed quieter, but the tension in the palace was thicker than ever. Princess Liara walked through the corridors with measured steps, her mind racing. The battle had shaken the city, but Kale's calm and precision had impressed even her. Still, the fear of the marriage weighed heavily on her heart. At breakfast, Kale appeared in the royal dining hall. His armor had been polished, but faint scars marked his forearms, reminders of yesterday's attack. He moved with the same controlled grace that had commanded the palace's defenses, and the room fell silent as he took his place at the table. Liara sat across from him, her hands folded neatly on the table. She studied him carefully, trying to reconcile the man she feared with the one who had saved countless lives. Kale caught her gaze and nodded politely, acknowledging her without words. "Princess Liara," he said finally, his voice steady but not harsh, "I hope you are feeling safe this morning." Liara nodded. "I am, thanks to your actions yesterday. You risked yourself for the palace." Kale's expression softened slightly. "It is my duty to protect those who cannot protect themselves. I have no interest in harming those who are innocent." Liara looked down at her hands. She had expected to hear arrogance or cruelty, but there was none. I have always feared you would be merciless," she admitted quietly. "But now I see a different side." Kale studied her for a moment. "Fear is natural. Stories often exaggerate the actions of leaders. You have seen only a part of me, and I hope my actions will show you my true intentions." Their conversation was interrupted by Taran, who entered hastily. "Princess, there is a council meeting about the human fleet. They demand formal acceptance of the alliance." Liara nodded, her stomach tightening. She knew this was the moment where diplomacy and courage would meet. She stood, smoothing her robes, and followed Taran to the Grand Council chamber. Kale followed closely behind, silent and focused. The chamber was filled with ministers, advisors, and senior military leaders. Holographic displays showed the human fleet approaching Zithra's borders, a silent reminder of the pressure the human empire exerted. King Arian spoke first. "We must show cooperation with General Kale. The human empire's fleet is formidable, and refusal could provoke conflict." A minister whispered, "But the general is known for ruthlessness. If we submit, we may lose more than our independence." Kale raised a hand, commanding attention. "Zithra's people have nothing to fear if we work together. I am here not to conquer, but to ensure stability. I respect your laws, your culture, and your sovereignty." Whispers spread across the chamber. Many ministers had expected threats, but Kale spoke with calm authority. Liara observed him, noting the respect he showed even in the presence of his power. The discussion turned to the details of the alliance. Kale proposed a combined defense force, sharing military technology and strategies. Liara noticed how he listened carefully to her father and the ministers, considering every suggestion before responding. His ruthlessness, she realized, was only for those who opposed him, not for the innocent citizens of Zithra. As the meeting ended, Liara was asked to train with Kale in tactical simulations. Though hesitant, she agreed, knowing she had to prepare for the marriage and the political responsibilities that would follow. In the simulation chamber, holographic battlefields appeared, showing fleets of ships and armies in motion. Kale demonstrated maneuvers with precision. "Predict your enemy's move," he instructed. "Think several steps ahead. Protect your people first, your pride second." Liara followed his instructions, feeling her confidence grow as she adapted to his methods. Though he was a human, his strategies were logical and disciplined. She began to see that his strength could be a benefit to her people, not just a source of fear. Days passed, and their interactions continued. Liara noticed moments when Kale's strict demeanor softened. He would offer guidance to palace guards, check on citizens injured during the attack, and quietly ensure that the palace staff were cared for. Each act contradicted the stories she had been told. One evening, while walking in the palace gardens, Liara found herself alone with Kale. The soft light of Zithara's twin moons reflected on the floating fountains, casting a gentle glow. "Princess," Kale began, his voice softer than usual, "I know this marriage is difficult for you. I do not wish to cause fear or pain." Liara looked at him, surprised by the sincerity in his tone. I do not know what to think," she admitted. "I fear you, but I see now that you protect those who need it. I do not understand how a human can be both feared and honorable." Kale nodded. "Fear can be a tool, but respect is earned through actions. I hope in time you will see that my loyalty lies with those who are innocent and those who are under my protection. That includes you, Princess." Liara felt a strange warmth in her chest. She still did not fully trust him, but she could not deny that his words and actions had begun to change her perception. I hope you are sincere," she whispered. Kale's gaze softened. "I am, and I hope you will judge me by what you see, not by what you have heard." Their growing understanding was interrupted by an urgent message. A faction within Zithara's court had conspired against Kale, believing him too dangerous to accept as part of the royal family. Assassins planned to strike during a public ceremony meant to honor the human general. Liara's heart raced. She knew she had to act. She alerted Kale, who quickly analyzed the threat. Together, they devised a plan to prevent the assassination. Guards were positioned strategically, and the ceremony continued without a hint of danger. When the would-be assassins attempted their strike, they were captured quickly and efficiently. The court was astonished. Kale had protected the palace and the princess, while Liara had played a crucial role in uncovering the plot. The ministers who opposed him had no choice but to acknowledge his loyalty and strategic mind. Liara, standing beside him, felt a mixture of relief and respect. In the following days, the human empire's fleet approached Zithara to confirm the alliance. Kale led the combined forces, with Liara advising him on Zithara's unique defenses. Using a combination of human tactics and Zitharan telepathy, they outsmarted the approaching fleet, convincing the Empire that cooperation with Zithara was in their best interest. The humans retreated, impressed by the unity and intelligence of their opposition. Kale's leadership and Liara's insight had created a new respect between their peoples. Finally, the day of the wedding arrived. The palace was decorated with luminous flowers and floating crystal lights. Citizens lined the streets, not in fear, but in curiosity and admiration. Liara stood at the top of the grand staircase, wearing her ceremonial robes. She looked at Kale, who waited with quiet dignity at the altar. Though her heart still held traces of fear, she now felt a strange confidence. She had seen his courage, his discipline, and his honor. She had also witnessed how he protected her and her people. Perhaps the marriage could be more than a political arrangement. Perhaps it could be a partnership built on respect, trust, and even understanding. As Kale took her hand, Liara felt the weight of the moment. The ceremony began, blending the traditions of Zithara and the human empire. When the vows were spoken, Liara looked into Kale's eyes and saw not a ruthless conqueror, but a man committed to honor, duty, and protection. As the ceremony concluded, Liara whispered softly, more to herself than to anyone else, "Perhaps I misjudged him, and perhaps I was wrong to fear him entirely." Kale, hearing her, allowed a small, almost imperceptible smile. He did not speak, but the understanding passed between them was clear. This was not the end of their journey, it was only the beginning. Together, they would face political intrigue, interstellar threats, and the challenges of uniting two very different worlds. But for the first time, Liara felt a spark of hope. She would survive this marriage, not as a victim of circumstance, but as a partner, a strategist, and perhaps, in time, as someone who could trust Kale completely. The stars of Zithra shone brightly that night, reflecting on the floating fountains and the polished towers of the city. A new alliance had begun, one that promised strength, peace, and the possibility that even the most feared human could become a protector, not a threat. Liara and Kale stood side by side, looking out over the city. Though challenges awaited, they were ready to face them together. The princess who had once whispered, "Father, please, not him," now understood that strength could come in unexpected forms, and that even the most ruthless human could have a heart worthy of trust. The palace was quiet, the citizens safe, and the alliance secured. But more importantly, Liara had learned a lesson about courage, perception, and the complex nature of human character. And Kale, the man she had feared, had begun to show her that honor and loyalty could exist even in those rumored to be ruthless. The journey ahead would be long and challenging, but for the first time, Princess Liara felt ready to face it, not with fear but with wisdom, courage, and a cautious hope for the future.